All right, welcome, ladies and germs, to episode 131 of Bloody Thumbs podcast with I, Splinter47.
And myself, C.H. Gorog.
Thank you for joining us.
How are you doing this lovely day?
Oh, fantastic. Are you asking me or the audience?
Both and neither. I've been playing a little BioShock Infinite, so I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, what would the founding fathers say?
I don't know, but the way that Comstock and his people of Columbia have interpreted it, probably some way racist. It's like, or a little white supremacy here, the little hyperbolic dictum whenever they're talking about God and how he's bestowed upon the nation a radical decree of heavenly glory upon their actions. But that's for a little bit later. It's I have to say, it's really good to be back, everybody. It's excellent that we're getting things underway. I really gotta say, BioShock Infinite. I am pleasantly surprised by this game. I had huge expectations for this game, and it met every single one of them.
That's certainly one hell of a game, which we'll get into later on. So thank you guys for joining us this fine week of the April 3rd, 2013. This is not the April Fool's episode. We didn't record this before that, so we got nothing. We got nothing in the ways of April Fools.
Mm-hmm. But we could do the Leog thing, which is have a really unfunny temper tantrum, and then just try to say that at the last minute, like, "Oh, you didn't get it. Oh, come on, guys, lighten up." And then we could just do the thing where we yell at each other, and, like break glass and threaten each other, curse, say our friendship never meant anything, and then storm out the room, and then leave people to wonder if we were actually breaking up as friends, and that'll be totally hilarious.
On paper,
or
it does.
Just do a thing which people might like, which is just say, "Oh, by the way, I'm getting my own spin-off show where I talk about nothing but sandwiches, and I review sandwiches every week."
Sounds like a hell of a show there. We got the meatball sub on this next episode.
I would gladly review just sandwiches and meat. There's something called a jackknife, which is I'll do it right now. It's just CH's sandwiches.
Ooh.
And let me jump into the fray here and just say the jackknife is really good because it has these. It's got these. It's chicken, provolone cheese, avocado, peppers. These are nice red peppers, aged to perfection. And what is it? Oh no! I think that's it. I might be forgetting one thing, but I'll remember it later. It's delicious. They toast it, and on 2 pieces of multi-grain bread, and I gotta say, man, it is. Oh wow! It takes your breath away and makes you realize that there is good in the universe.
I gotta try this out one time. This sounds like an interesting little endeavor to partake in with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done a review of the Doritos taco a while back, but it was I don't know. It could have been the place it came from or who made it, but I was not incredibly floored by it. I thought it was a bit. I thought it just tasted the same, and no Dorito. I didn't taste the Dorito nacho goodness. I didn't think I just made up a word there. Goodness of it.
So maybe goodness is the expectation of how good it's going to be, and then goodness is if it actually turned out to be good. But this is the good. It has failed the goodness test.
I'll give it a meh. Well, we'll see what happens.
I'll give it a meh out of 10.
Meh out of 10.
And speaking of restaurants and endorsements, have you seen the trailer for what is it, The Interns with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson?
I have not. I've not kept up with a lot of movie trailers. As in my younger days, I would almost watch a lot of the trailers that have come out. What is this film about, starring the critically acclaimed actor of Vince Vaughn?
It's The movie is about Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. They're a couple of older guys, but they still try to act like they're 22. And they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, we're totally hip." And then apparently one day they lose their job. I'm not sure where. They don't really. I think maybe they sell cars. I'm not really sure because the trailer didn't make it. The trailer was unclear about that, but they were certainly clear about who the hell was funding this film, which is Google. Now the story of the film is that Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson lose their jobs, and they're like, "Okay, well, what we could do is we could apply for an internship at Google." And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, and then they have basically a Skype chat with Google, which as they talk about it, and every single shot outside of after 15 seconds, every shot every shot has a background image of Google somewhere. Where it's like, look, it's Google. Google's great. Yeah, Google's awesome. Yeah, this internship at Google's going to be a thing. It's like, oh my god. I've never seen this blatant of advertising in my life, and I watch Disney films. It's like, come on, what is this? What is this nonsense?
It sounds about more almost on the same line of Jack and Jill, with just heavily product endorsements in that flick, product ads in there in the background with it, whether it be Toshiba laptops or just whatever accessory they're using in the film. It sounds like a hit. CH, I don't know what you're talking about.
If by a hit you mean somebody punched you in the face, and that's how subtle how subtle the advertising is for this movie, then yes, you'd be right. And the only times I ever really like advertising at all in movies is if it's like put it off to the side where I can't notice it. Like for instance, in the first Iron Man film, where Tony Stark pulls out, I think, a Nokia phone. What they do is that they shoot it so the lighting doesn't highlight the actual Nokia logo, and they have Jeff Bridges talking to him, and he's moving around, so your eye's drawn to Jeff Bridges. So it's like, okay, that's fairly, I like that you're kind of hiding it up, or to like do what they do in comedy films, which is like don't draw attention to it, or if they do draw a lot of attention to it to the point where it's like, okay, they're making fun of the fact that they have to have advertising in here, like the I don't know, like the Twinkies and Ghostbusters, and that was a funny moment, or in like what was it, Talladega Nights, where Will Ferrell just looks at the camera and just goes, "If you don't like Big League Chew, then fuck you." And he's just like going through all these different advertisements that you don't know he doesn't really believe in, but he's just doing it for the money. And at least do that well. Like if you're going to include it, just like at least make it slightly nudging, like, okay, yeah, you don't like these advertisements, neither do we, but we need to fund our film.
Like in Tropic Thunder with that booty sweat.
See, I would buy that. They didn't have it in the. They lied to me because it was not like they said, "Oh, go out to the theater and go buy it now." It's like I went out there. There was no booty sweat. I asked this young woman, "Hey, excuse me, ma'am, may I see your booty sweat?" She called the security, but I don't know why. I was just asking for a drink, and she took it the wrong way. What is it? People are too sensitive these days.
Oh yeah, I figured you weren't allowed back in that theater, and you have just a bunch of unwanted signs outside that theater.
Yeah, yes. Every day I saw her, and I just yelled at her, "Ma'am, I demand your booty sweat. What is wrong? I'm willing to pay for it." Sadly, I'm not allowed back into that theater, and it's a shame just because I never got to taste that booty sweat.
Yeah, advertisements are a pretty necessary evil. But the subtle way to approach it was to, like you mentioned in Iron Man, was after he just got back to the States after being in captivity in, what was it, probably Afghanistan or something, and he just had that Burger King after. It made me want to eat a burger. I normally don't. I'm normally not that guy that buys into commercials, but it did make me want to have a burger after that movie.
No, absolutely, but it also really worked well with the, besides the fact that it was actually looking like, oh, that's one tasty burger there. Look at the big brain on Brett. And it was it also fed into the joke, like, okay, he wants to do two things, which like have a very serious press conference, but he's back in America now. I want a goddamn cheeseburger, and so that feeds into the joke, and I do like. if you're going to use product endorsement, at least use it for a point. Don't just like have it in the background. Like, do you remember the first Transformers film where Shia LaBeouf is like trying to bicycle away from the cop Transformer, where he's one of the Decepticons, and then he like crashes in front of a Burger King where Megan Fox just happens to be at, and like, there you are, Shia LaBeouf's character. Well, like, what's going on? And it's like the Burger King dominating like 3/5 of the screen behind them. It's like, oh, come on! I know Michael Bay is not exactly versed in the language of subtlety, but at least he can do something a bit more artistically secure than just like, oh, look at this shit behind you.
Sure, yeah. I briefly remember that. I try to forget Transformers movies from my head. So yeah. And you put me in the dark. You put me in the place again, thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but at least I liked to be honest, I liked the first Transformers film. It's like, okay, it looks fairly obvious that Spielberg, even in comparison to the rest of Bay's films, really reined him in. I was like, okay, don't go crazy. We have a couple of ideas. The story is still abysmal, and there's no characters at all. But the action's fun, and whatever. It's not bad, but certainly not one of the best hallmarks of movies ever. Then,
how are you feeling about the his latest endeavor into
Transformers?
Not Transformers. Pain and Gain, starring The Rock and Mark Wahlberg.
I don't know. Bay has really gotten on my bad side just because of the idiocy of 2 and 3. At least, like, the first one was harmless. The second and third one, was written on the back of a napkin. And then the third one's like, oh, we're going to make up for the second one. And then it was just as stupid. And it drove me up the wall. And I really just wanted to say, to hell with this, I don't care. But Pain and Gain, I like Dwayne Johnson. And I think I just saw G.I. Joe, and that movie was ridiculous, and yet I didn't. That was, once again, that movie was a bit mixed bag. I like some of the action sequences, the mountainside, when the ninjas are running along, like, that was a badass action sequence.
Mm-hmm, but that's what I heard.
It's such a weird movie because it's like, okay, they build up Cobra Commander to be this really big badass, but the only thing he does is make one speech, and then he flies away on a helicopter. Don't worry, I'm not spoiling the plot because there is no plot. It's just like, oh, these people are threatening to do bad things. We better stop them. That's it. Oh, and also the movie really likes to make fun of North Korea, which I'm fine with. So that gets some bonus points.
That's good to hear. Then, no, I mean, why would anyone get? Never mind. I just answered my question in my head. Why would anyone get upset about spoilers for a G.I. Joe movie? I actually forgot that came out this week. To be honest with you, and I don't know why it just blew past my head because since I watched wrestling on Mondays, they always promote the hell out of that, and some other films they co-publish or distribute to me. It just flew by me. I have to check it out and see what's up. It definitely wasn't worth the delay they had on that for the 3D. I presume.
No, it was there's hardly any. The thing is, I don't really know why they did that. They said it was for 3D conversion, but I'm fairly certain it shouldn't take that long. I guess they just didn't want to release it during the fall or winter or early 2013, so they're just waiting until kind of more around the summer area. But it was an all right film. It reminded me kind of like 90s action films where it's like, okay, they're fun, they're kind of cool in some areas, but they're not really that memorable. And there are no real plots. There's no real character arcs. They're just like, okay, these characters are doing things, and there's the only one that really has any huge character arc is like Lady J, whoever that actress plays that character, where she, like, her entire character arc is just, oh, I have daddy issues. And they get like, oh, and then it's just at the end of the film. Don't worry, I'm not spoiling this for you because it comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, don't worry, your father would be proud of you because Bruce Willis is proud of you. What? That
Seems
makes
logical.
no sense. I'm sorry?
Seems logical. I mean, if I can at least impress Bruce Willis, I think it'd be good enough to impress my own dad.
Very, very true. If you could impress John McClane, then you certainly earned your keep. But it's an okay film. I do like a lot of some of the action scenes, especially with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, just because I always had a soft spot for ninjas and Ninja Please. There was some excellent fights in there whenever Snake Eyes was concerned. Everything else, like, okay, this is like, for some reason they there's an action scene where Dwayne Johnson and Steve what's his name, Ray Stevenson, I want to say, who he's he played the fat guy in Thor. He played the Fat Warrior, and he also played the Punisher in Warzone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's an excellent actor. Whenever he needs like a big tough guy to actually act really, really well, you get Ray Stevenson. But there's just a scene of them fighting on a beach, and then for no reason they get in jet boats to go around, like to have like a boat chase. And it's like, why did you do this? Like, this is the only reason that you did, just to like have this cool boat chase.
Well, yeah, it seems like a nice little popcorn flick.
Yeah, I would say, like, okay, for those of you who are big Channing Tatum fans, he's not in the film that much. It's like, okay,
damn it,
there's a bit of him in the beginning, and then that's it.
No shirtless Channing Tatum? For the ladies.
Sadly, no. I was pining for that moment in the shot where I thought it was going to be like maybe a bridge between the first G.I. Joe, Magic Mike, and this film, but sadly, no. It was not to be.
Well, it's interesting. Nice to get your opinion on that. It makes me actually brought up memories that it actually came out, and probably curious enough to check it out. I don't worry about the spoilers on my end because I don't really care that much. But we'll see. I'll probably check it out this weekend. I don't know what else is out this weekend. I haven't even kept track of that.
There's nothing to spoil. There's no plot. It's just people doing things. There's no Nolan-esque third act twist where it's like, oh, the Joes are actually the Cobras. It's like, oh, it's like, okay, they're just doing things that are badass. And it seems like it was I don't know if it cost more or less than the last G.I. Joe film, but this film feels a lot cheaper. Where it's like, okay, a lot of the sets are not as extravagant. Like their headquarters is like an abandoned boxing like club, where it's like, okay, this is really weird. And at the very end, it's like they're fighting on the shores of like Maryland. They went to Easton, Maryland, where all the like retired old folks are, and just like shot like a fight scene by it. Like you can see like Grandma and Grandpa in the background, just like opening the door. It's like, oh look, honey, look, it's The Rock. He's beating up that man from Thor. Yeah, so it's not bad, but it's nowhere good.
Yeah, it is what it is from the looks of it. I'm not expecting anything profound out of it. So, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
It's certainly no. It's probably not going to be as good as the video game adaptation that Robert Ebert is planning on making.
Seems like it.
Yeah, did you hear about that?
I read the headlines. All I know that he's making a movie out of a mobile game or something. Maybe I read it wrong.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying maybe I read it wrong. I don't know the whole thing. I didn't read it.
No. You're definitely on the right track. Where it was, he's doing a mobile app game adaptation. And he's like, okay, video game fans, if you think that video games are art, well then I just might prove it with this. And that's great for him because he's in the perfect position to do this because no matter what happens, he wins. Because like if he writes a great script, I don't know if he's obviously probably not gonna direct it. He's gonna write it. But like if he writes a great video game movie script, people will praise him up and down as the guy who legitimized video game movies. But if it fails, he'll just go, "See, I told you. You can't make a good movie out of it, and I'm Roger Ebert. I know what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm sick of you and your thumbs. Just why don't you stick your thumb where the sun don't shine?
I hear you.
But yeah, today is also a day of quiet reflection because we have the bigger of the two. I want to announce in a little bit, but Square Enix has had a lot of layoffs today as a result of corporate restructuring, and it's a lot of it is caused because of probably projected the sales numbers and projected sales numbers for a couple of big releases that they were pushing for were not as successful, and that seems to be a fairly recent trend now where the video games sales are going down a lot as a kind of a general overall trend for the industry, where it's even let me put you some numbers where like Sleeping Dogs I don't know if they shipped or they sold 1.75 million units, and they expected 2 to 2.5 million units, and kind of same thing with Hitman Absolution, where it shipped 3.6, and they were expecting kind of 4.5 or 5. And Tomb Raider, they shipped 3.4, and they were expecting 5 or 6 million. And these are it's such a weird place we are right now in the industry where these can be wildly successful games and ship in the millions and still be considered failures.
Oh yeah, we had the same issue recently with Dead Space 3, and then Resident Evil 6.
I'm sorry.
I mean, we had that whole issue with Dead Space 3 and Resident Evil 6, where it's just like they sold. I mean, they sold it. I mean, pretty well. I mean, I don't know what they were expecting. If they were expecting Call of Duty numbers, but they did well enough for the games that they are. It's just, I think, it comes down to, I guess with some of those games, you got to kind of lower down the kind of expectations and also kind of whole budget of the games, because games are getting pretty expensive, and then usually they cannot make much of their money unless they're Call of Duty. And it's just great. I think you have to lower down some of the prices in making games. And I mean, for Hitman, I thought those numbers are pretty good. I mean, for a franchise that hasn't been around since 2006, it did incredibly well.
No, it did. They did great. A lot of the problems is that if they don't immediately make, there like even before Dead Space 3 was even released, we had the EA representative saying, okay, if it doesn't ship 6 million units in the first month, it won't make back its money. And everyone was saying, "Are you kidding? Like, that is so ridiculous. How in the world could you ever say that? This is." And like you have Resident Evil 6, who had like hundreds of people working on the game and millions going into it, and then just getting very lukewarm receptions, and it doesn't sell gangbusters. And we saw what happened with THQ, because they had a lot of really well-selling franchises like Red Faction and Saints Row, Metro. They were doing very, very well for themselves, and they just went under because they risked. They had, well, first off, they had the U-Draw stuff, which was just stupid, and then they just had these ridiculous expectations. And you got to realize, not everything is going to be making the Call of Duty money. And even games that are like Call of Duty and are close to making the Call of Duty money, they don't make the Call of Duty money. Like Medal of Honor, Warfighter, where like, okay, the sales and critical reception that were pretty poor, and so they're retiring the franchise for right now. And it feels like this might be a wake-up call, and it might be a signaling of maybe a mini crash like we had back in the 80s, but I think this is going to be more on the publisher side, because now that we're having a lot of different avenues to access arcade games and games through like Steam or Origin, or like Good Old Games, or all these other avenues where we don't have to jump through goddamn hoops to get our games, or have like always on. The always on DRM stuff on SimCity. I want to get back to that, but I love what EA has done. So, but first,
Sure.
it just, yeah, it's. I think we're just seeing some growing pains right now, just because a lot of these companies don't want to just be bigger and get more money. The problem is that there's not money won't always be able to flow evenly. So I think that they need to maybe think about price restructure and just realistic expectations, and just think, okay, we're going to make the best game we can and get a good amount of money in, without sacrificing the soul of what we want to make.
I think that seems to be the way to go. It's just you can't invest so much into a game and thinking it's going to do well just because you have people like Michael Proctor saying that it's going to do well. It's just can't you just can't count your eggs before they hatch. You just have to make the best game you can. It just goes into that discussion. I think there was
I'm sorry for interrupting,
sure.
But Michael Pachter is the video game industry equivalent of the Aliens guy on History Channel, where he's like every time the PSP Vita didn't sell as well in January as it did in February, or it didn't sell as good in February as it did in January. He'll just go like, Sony's doomed, so you might want to sell all your stock right now, or it's like, some people have commented that the graphics on this new game have some pop-in texture issues. Therefore, we should invent a new generation of video game consoles just to keep up with what graphics should be. It's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, he jumps to conclusions about everything.
Oh yeah, that seems to be the logical way to go, Mr. Michael.
It's like Square Enix cutting people, firing people for corporate restructuring. You should burn down the Square Enix building in Japan. Teach them a lesson. It's like, I'm sorry. What are you doing here? Are you Fox News? What's going on?
Yeah, I guess it is what it is. I mean, they could, I guess, bounce back a bit from this. I mean, they have licenses like the Kingdom Hearts and then Final Fantasy, which have a pretty decent audience behind it, and they would definitely buy those games, but they never put them out. The games that people want, HD
version. They have Final Fantasy. They have all these huge RPGs that people love, and they have very successful franchises, as you said, Hitman, Tomb Raider, Sleeping Dogs. They've got Deus Ex. They're working on the sequel allegedly, while they got the movie in the works, and it really is just kind of staggering. It's like, okay, wow, you guys are sitting on gold mines right here, and you're kind of blowing it. And I would be really surprised to see what happens. I don't think they're going to end up like THQ, which is like, okay, they're going to have to sell off all their assets. They're going to go under, but it's like, okay, these companies need to realize that you can't always go bigger. Like for what was it? For Resident Evil 6, like for Capcom, bigger isn't always better. Or Dead Space 3, where it's like, okay, more explosions, more epic stuff. You can't always do that and expect, okay, people are going to attach themselves to this as the original, because you're changing the soul of what the original was.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's been the case for those games, and they just have to stick with what made those games work and just try to expand on it rather than just completely changing it and hoping that if you add more explosions it will do well. It's just, I don't know, that's just not how it's not how it works. I mean, that's the sole reason why the first Dead Space was so successful, because of that. There's just a survival horror game on current gen consoles that it did a lot of things well, and they further expanded upon a little bit more in 2, and just kind of completely wiped that little bit clean slate with 3.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you'll really make this atmosphere a lot more dreadful and nerve-wracking is if you had a co-op buddy in there with you and to talk through with everything. It's like, oh, look, I can see a pop-in texture over here. Oh, look at that. You want some ammo? No, I'll take some ammo. Oh, by the way, how are you liking Dead Space 2? Have you beat it yet, or?
Oh, Dead Space 2? Oh, yeah, I haven't gone back to it since I started playing BioShock Infinite. I don't know how far I am into the game. It's not very long. It's like 8 hours, something like that, right? I'm on the
Yep.
second disc, so I'm probably pretty close. I don't remember the chapter I'm on, but I know I'm pretty relatively close. It feels like it's about to wrap things up, but I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. But
But
I don't begrudge you an inch just because BioShock Infinite is brilliant. I love that game.
it is great. Just I guess just trying to wrap up on this topic here. I wonder what kind of things that we could do to, well, not us because we're not making the games, but what kind of developers or publishers can do to kind of avoid having to go through this whole process. I know that Jade Raymond from Ubisoft, I think she's the managing director now for the new Toronto studio now. She's working on the new Splinter Cell Blacklist, and she was saying about how, she doesn't completely believe that continually expanding budgets for AAA games are kind of necessary.
Yeah.
She suggested that there could be ways that where kind of the user can get involved with kind of adding on to that game, like sort of in the same business model that Team Fortress 2 went in.
Yeah, I also think that's a little bit dubious of a proposition, just because, like, okay, you pay for a game and you just okay, if you pay for a game and then you get all the stuff that you want for a $60 investment, and then it also comes with this cool, create your own thing, like, that's cool. But if it just, like, for instance, like the Hitman Absolution game, where it's a complete game, but you can also do those custom maps of assassination missions.
Yeah, I guess something like that, it could definitely benefit a game's replay value and have more people playing if you have some sort of implementation of that, so just to get people playing and just mixing things up and not having to replay the whole campaign of it, and then kind of get a little bit burnt out by it, and rather just go through each missions and having those conditions implemented on there, and just creating newer experiences every time depending on who you're playing those assassination contracts for. I think that's the way to definitely expand the game's value right there.
Mm-hmm. It's as long as you just make a good game, and if it's fun, if it's an engaging game that people enjoy playing, then you don't really need to add anything on after that. If you do, that's cool, but just make sure that the main reason why people are there to play the game, that's good, and then you can add other stuff afterwards.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess it just comes down to publishers expecting too much out of the games they made, and the games you've mentioned from Square Enix are all very good games. I just don't. I think they had too unrealistic expectations for them.
Yeah, it's. I think especially now, people have these big companies. They need to start maybe tightening their belts a little bit and realizing, okay, we can't just really make bigger is better and put in this shitty DRM and expect people to pay top dollar for it, and while we're screwing them over for content. And speaking of that, the gift that keeps on giving, this is EA and SimCity, where we had a representative say that, okay, we don't think DRM works at all. Our always online DRM is very bad. But wait a minute, isn't SimCity a game with DRM? No. SimCity is an MMO.
Since when? This is news to me.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I had something crazy in my ear. What did you say? Did you say that SimCity is an MMO? That's strange, because I played World of Warcraft once. It doesn't look anything like World of Warcraft. The fact that I get to build a city and then somebody else builds a city tangentially close to my city and geographically, I really don't get it. And they're trying to do everything they can so that people can turn around on just how hateful that people have become, just realizing, okay, EA is just the shittiest practices known to man in terms of just figuring out how to screw every person out of their dollars as best they can, and someone has proven. Someone actually modded SimCity to the point where, okay, it actually does work offline, but they're saying that the always-on DRM is actually a service. And once again, it's not a service. A service is when you pay for something and you get something in return. This is just highway robbery. So I really don't have any sympathy for EA. I'm not going to be buying any games from them anytime soon.
Yeah, I hear you. I have the same feeling about EA for just over the years. Just not one of my favorite publishers out there, but it's a bold statement, sir, saying that you're going to buy a game from EA. You gotta wait for some other Mass Effect game coming out for that. We'll see.
I don't know.
I hear you.
I don't know.
I hear you.
It's driving me up a wall. But the other little bit of news that I wanted to talk about was bit sad, which is Disney has announced that they're the ones who purchased Lucas Films and LucasArts for all their properties like Indiana Jones and Star Wars. And unfortunately, they decided to close up shop with LucasArts and cancel all of their projects, including Star Wars 1313, and which actually looked fairly far along in terms of the game, and it's really, really sad.
Yeah, it is a shame. I mean, I was kind of had my eye on that Star Wars 1313 when we saw that some of the stuff from E3, but nowadays it's you got to kind of have to hold back on that a little bit because with the whole Aliens Colonial Marines fiasco, it's kind of you kind of second guess a little bit of the stuff they show at either at E3 or just press events in general. But from the looks of it looked like it was going to be some interesting Star Wars game. I mean, my fond memories of LucasArts were a lot of their definitely in just the late 80s and I guess early 2000s with their. I mean, they were really on the same kind of critically well received level as Telltale is now with their point-and-click adventure games. I guess and some of the guys from who used to work at LucasArts are now at Telltale or Double Fine at the moment. So I guess that's where some of the good kind of goodness from the the former team is rubbing off of those kind of current developers that make those kind of modern point-and-click adventures now. But yeah, just games from like the Monkey Island stuff. And what was it?
Grim
Fandango. Yeah, and I mean recently they
the Tentacle.
Right. Yeah, I mean recently they. I don't know how much they collaborated, but with Telltale to do the new the Tales of Monkey Island.
I think they collaborated for the HD remake, so they could get access to the original stuff, but. A lot of it was like they were really known for kind of these really weird and creative games, and they shifted kind of in the late 90s to making this kind of Star Wars and Indiana Jones properties exclusives, which it was too bad, but it was also fine just because a lot of the a lot of the products that they turned out were fantastic, like the Dark Forces series, the I think that this what was it? Oh gosh, why am I forgetting about that? Oh, the Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb,
right? Yeah.
And just all these really cool property games that they actually took time to do, and they made excellent. One of my favorite Star Wars games, which is Republic Commando. Which, wow, that's an excellent. They could take almost any genre and then just put Star Wars or Indiana Jones into it and do it, fantastically. And it's just, gosh, it's so sad to see them go. I mean, their last real big hurrah was the Force Unleashed series, and they didn't even get to finish that.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think in the newer kind of I can't even speak millennium, as they started working on the modern games. Some of that kind of quality started to. It's kind of drop a bit with the since the I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but since like the release of the Phantom Menace,
Yeah, I think it was just like, okay, like with the original trilogy, like, whoa, okay, wow, we have to have like a really high standard to make those to make the Star Wars universe really shine in the video game medium. And it's like they saw the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge. It's just like, that's the high bar. Okay, guys, don't worry, we don't have to try to work as hard. And then they just decided to scale back and make just these really dumb games that nobody really plays.
Yeah, I think they had a pretty hard time adapting to the kind of modern gen of games. They had the Fracture there, and it didn't do too well. And I mean, like you mentioned, the Force Unleashed, which I mean, I liked the first one. The second one was a bit underwhelming. There was some. I thought there was some kind of potential for that second one, but it just didn't. I felt that it didn't end too well.
Try, I'm sorry, but they did try to make a kind of classic, interesting game with I think it was Lucidity, where you played it, where it was like the story of this girl who was kind of walking throughout the game world, and what your job to do was to use these items and equipment to get her safely to the other side, which is like she would be walking over a pit, and then you'd use a fan to kind of fan her back up so that she kind of fell on the other side of the find the other cliff, and instead of then falling to her death or what. I can't remember. I didn't play it, so I'm not really sure. But that was an interesting endeavor. But then they made stuff like Fracture, and I think. Oh man, I can't. They didn't make Hydrophobia. Never mind. That was another one. But the games that the licensed game that they made were bad, and then whenever they tried to do something original, it was even worse. So I wasn't exactly surprised that they're going out of business, but it's still painful because I had really good memories of LucasArts.
Oh yeah, there are definitely a lot of fond memories during like the 80s and the early 2000s with those with their good point-and-click adventure games. It's a shame to see them go. I mean, and they went off on such a high note with Connect Star Wars. So.
Oh! I mean, who doesn't want to play Han Solo dancing around to "I'm Riding Solo"? And it's one of those moments where I don't want to say it's the Star Wars Christmas special, but it's certainly not something you want to be telling your grandchildren one day. Well, when I was your age, I decided to play some Connect Star Wars. It's like, Granddad, you're a monster. I know, Sonny, I know.
So yeah, that's it for LucasArts there. I don't know, any final words on that?
Sad to see you guys go. You made a lot of good games, even if it was just co-producing or lending the titles out just so that people, other studios could make it, like Factor 5 with Star Wars Rogue Squadron series. But, it's the end of an era. And really sad to see you guys go.
Yeah, it is. And the last great thing they did was add the Gorog in the Star Wars Force Unleashed 2.
Roar! Yeah.
Oh, man.
I got my chance to shine.
It almost scared me off my seat here, man, with that great voice that you did right there. I mean, I know you were in the studio for quite a while. You did some method acting to get ready for that role in that game, which for such a short moment in the game. I mean, I think you really poured your heart and soul into that one, in that performance.
Thank you very much. It was actually it was an hour long of voice capture performance. They didn't modify my voice at all, so the voice that you hear in the final game is actually me just sit and have a cup of coffee, and it's like, okay, CH, why don't you say the line? Okay, roar. That's good, CH. All right, we're moving on to the next scene.
Man, fantastic! What a nice little insight into the voice acting business.
It's a tough business, but somebody's got to do it, and gosh darn it, I'm going to say the people at LucasArts really knew their craft.
Well, I hope you're getting some nice royalty checks there.
Until Disney realized that I'm scamming from them. But, whatever the case may be, I certainly hope that I can voice another Gorog iteration in a Star Wars game.
So let's see, John. Why are we sending these checks to CH Gorog for 50 cents every month? Like, just let it be.
Those 50 cents, you're just waiting for 20 years, and then I'll be able to buy a new pair of shoes.
Or maybe renew your insurance. Who knows? A lot of possibilities can come from just saving a penny every day, man.
Exactly.
Like,
penny saved is penny earned.
Penny earned, exactly. The wise words of whoever said that. Very wise words. So did you want to get into some little bit discussion of BioShock Infinite? I know you're enjoying it.
Yes.
I don't know how far, if you've beaten the game or not, but I have beaten the game.
Yes. Same here. I've beaten it, and I am
quite a breathtaking opening. Much kind of similar to the first BioShock, but instead of going down, you're going up.
Yeah, I couldn't exactly. I couldn't put it better myself, my good friend. Where it works much like a lot of great sequels or spiritual sequels. It works with a lot of thematic stuff or motifs that you see that you've seen in the previous BioShock games, where you have, for instance, Elizabeth is kind of like Eleanor Lamb in terms of her being kind of the center figure for hope and for change, but she might not really want to go that route. And then you have, of course, Columbia is very much like Rapture, where it's this city that was attempted to be kind of this idealized state, but it's just done so well, and at the game itself actually is a commentary on these motifs. And if they don't continue the BioShock series after this one, I would be fine with that, just because they ended on such a brilliant note. And I honestly don't know how else to really think about this game except it's just brilliant. It deals with choice, identity, religion, national identity, the concept of forgiveness, and all these things and more are just addressed in this very adult, very mature, very somber manner. And one of my favorite things is I hope I'm not spoiling it, but it's been in every single trailer and every single piece of media where you and Elizabeth are together, and one of the first encounters you have with the enemy, she's actually freaked out, because not just because the enemies are attacking, but the fact that you have to defend yourself, and you kill some enemies, and then you go to Elizabeth afterwards, and she's really shaken, and she goes, "You're a monster. How could you just killed those people? How could you do that?" And then you think like, wow, this game is actually pointing out that, yeah, we do kill a lot of people. And I'm just floored. But I've been talking too much. What is your take on it?
No, it is a fantastic game. It is definitely going to be a lot of discussions about it, and definitely makes me want to replay the game again just to see kind of the subtle things that I missed that I didn't pick up on the first time. And after finishing that near the end and getting a lot of insight out of it, a lot more than your standard first-person shooters out there. But it's fantastic. I mean, I love the design of the game. It's such a really beautifully constructed world. It's just brilliantly executed. Just the way when you first see Columbia, it was just like, oh man, I just stood there for like 5 minutes, and before I even did anything, it was just so well crafted, and it was just a nice little ecstasy for your eyes, just the way the Columbia is all put together. And then when you're speaking about Elizabeth, my first kind of impression about her was she seemed a little bit about, I wouldn't say stereotypical, but a bit more. She reminded me a bit of the kind of Disney princesses in a way. And then after the first, when you first encounter her, and she drastically changes throughout the game, and it becomes more of a realization of kind of the world she's just experiencing, and it becomes more sure of herself and just the world around her. It was just a nice little progression of character from very differently from the first time you meet her. It was just no, it's a great game, and it does have a few little callbacks to BioShock there, and then it's easily stands up on its own. So you don't really have to worry about playing BioShock. But if you have it, you get a lot of little interesting little tidbits
Easter
here and there. Nice Easter eggs is the word right there. It's just
yeah,
a lot of variety in the gameplay. It does have similar mechanics in like the first BioShock with getting getting these powers and then drinking the what they call vigors, and you get the different abilities to use with one hand and the other for your weapons there. And so 2-weapon limit right there, so it didn't bother me too much. I actually forgot, because in the first one you you click on the right stick to aim in the iron sights. I found myself using it a little bit than I did, but I mean at times it got in the way. It's not perfect, but it's doable that way, right? Because it's just very. I'm so used to using the left trigger for the aiming down the sights, but that one, the whole left trigger is used for just using your abilities. So much like the plasmids, but disdained differently.
Right.
A lot of branching paths, and I mean for a linear game, there's a lot to kind of go back on before you advance further from unlocking random chests and deciphering these kind of codes on the walls and backtracking, which I was pretty terrible at backtracking because I forgot where did I see that code, and I found this I found the decipher of we can see what this was. I never found the one, so I was curious to see what exactly you got out of that. I'm sure it was just either health or shield upgrades, and it was for the most part pretty interesting. How I spent a lot of time just exploring other areas of the game before advancing further onto the main path, but which is kind of what it was pretty encouraging of to do so. Just a lot of to discover and look in its designs with its posters, and just seeing how Columbia and the whole origins on that. If you watch all the kind of this little I forgot what they're called, kinetoscopes. Yeah, you get to see these little kind of slideshows and seeing that how they seceded from the Union and then they flow away and up and have a city flown away from the Union, and seeing how these some of the presidents of founding fathers are praised as gods, and just one of the early things you see is just these statues of Washington and Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, that conniving, that guy Benjamin Franklin was a considerable more. He was kind of a sleazebag, really, in real life, that people kind of gloss over. It's like, oh, he's one of our founding fathers. Oh, he really liked to sleep around that nobody really wants to focus on. And he had so many STDs it was fairly ridiculous how controversial his real life actually was than just the comparative version. Where anyway, I don't want to get into that, but it's like, okay, but I love how just you're spot on in terms of they take all these different kind of the founding fathers and their ideals as the kind of as the backbone of this entire culture, but then there's this kind of hypocritical need for labor, and so they bring in minorities, and that's how they bring them in, but they still treat them like second-class citizens. So tensions are going to rise at some point. And what I love about Columbia is that, unlike Rapture, you're not there after kind of the fighting is over and there's nothing, and you're just kind of fighting the scraps. This is happening right now. You're there when the city is there are problems, but it's mostly at peace, where you just kind of explore what's going on, and then the city kind of descends from there into chaos. And that's such an interesting look at the world. And they have of course they have audio logs with the voxophones, but what they also have is, they constantly have this visual stuff like, posters. They'll have people talking to you on the street. They'll have little carnival games where they introduce you to the Vox Populi in sort of a childish manner, like, oh, look out, it's the Vox Populi. Why don't you shoot the cardboard cutouts and get a prize? And then you have, like, what I love is the barbershop quartet on the floating platform just singing. Like, oh, that's a really cool moment. And then, it's like all these cool little visual stuff that you get, and not just directed to you from audio logs or people talking directly at you, but actually exploring the world itself and just seeing visually all the information that they give you.
Oh yeah, just seeing that whole progression when you first arrive at the carnival, playing those all those little interesting mini games there. That was a lot of fun, and then just slowly see it descend into just chaos once they start attacking you and labeling you as the false shepherd there. And I says, oh, god damn.
It's a false shepherd. So I guess that was the guy who. It's like, okay, so that's the guy who apparently played a pirated version of Mass Effect. He played the false shepherd. Get him!
I know. They saw the ending too of the original 3, Mass Effect 3.
It's the guy who wrote the original ending of Mass Effect 3. Kill him!
That's the twist.
But
no, it's fantastic. I mean, it's definitely worth checking out. Obviously, if you haven't already, it's just like you said, there's so much themes it touches upon, and just a lot of areas in the game to discuss. That I mean, I guess it's not necessarily, I guess, one thing. It's a lot of kind of interpretation. It leaves you with interpretations there, and which is pretty cool. Just to have it just leaves you with pretty satisfying ending, and just a lot to discuss afterwards, and seeing what else you could subtly find when you replay the game. It's just a lot of layers to that game.
It's an amazing game, and frankly, it's one of my favorite stories. And I have to say, I prefer this more than BioShock 1. I that may be heresy, but I think they struck the perfect balance of everything that I wanted. Where there's enough information there, and enough gameplay, enough narrative, and enough just everything in there to keep me satisfied, but enough so that I want to go back again and experience it all over again, or try to find the little nuggets of Easter eggs that I missed, or like it's a story that's about choice, but you don't make a lot of choices that impact the story. What you do is you make little choices that actually have ramifications in another sense, but they're not really directed along the main path. It's more like variations and themes on the subject of choice, and it's all about how choice changes somebody, and how choice, while we're limited in terms of choice, the consequences that we have are infinite, which are a very apt description for BioShock. This game, where it's absolutely fantastic. Don't let anybody spoil it for you. Go out and play this game immediately, if not sooner. It is a work of art. Absolutely
agreed, and I'm looking forward to actually discussing it further with the BGB guys, and seeing what we can sum up from the whole game. And I don't know, we'll see if we'll do some sort of separate discussion on just the overall game without having to worry about always saying spoilers every 5 seconds or anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Maybe just like, okay, so we're not going to be able to talk about the game. Like, well, 2 sections. One that we talk about like how we thought about the game, and the second just about the spoilers. The first part will be about 5 minutes. The second part will be about 2 hours.
Yeah, much like a Mass Effect review, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to reviewing that film. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's all we can probably say at the matter, without getting too much into details and ruining it for anybody who hasn't played it yet. But it's a great game, worth checking out, and I've just been playing. Also along that side, the Metal Gear Rising Revengance. I got that off of eBay. I got an amazing deal, and pretty much a steal. I think I would say. I mean, on eBay, it was that and $34, and alongside the limited edition art book as well. I
Nice.
think you got that from some sort of pre-order, but it came along with that. It was pretty nice art book there, and I think it's the same guy that does the art for the Metal Gear Solid games. So it was pretty nice. It's a nice to have there into the game art book collection, and just been playing that for the past few days, enjoying the hell out of it. I mean, I can't believe I didn't really play this sooner because I'm a pretty big fan of Platinum games, and then this game is not as complex as Bayonetta, but it's satisfying. Is the key right there. There's a lot of variety to some of the moves. That there actually is a combo set in some of them, but not as too completely complex like I was saying with Bayonetta. But I just discovered it the other day that oh shit, there's a combo list in here. I was like yeah, no, I mostly just mash the buttons and they usually work. I usually have a certain specific button mashes that I do, and it seems to do me pretty well. I mean, most of the boss battles I didn't have completely too much trouble with almost all of them except like the last one at the moment where I'm kind of at an impasse with at the moment. But everything else I didn't completely have too much of a problem with. And then I was like, I know some people were talking about how the game was pretty hard. I was like, this game isn't that hard. And then I got to the almost very end, like, oh crap, I understand now. It certainly tests
Nanomachine, son.
It tests your might. Oh yeah, the nanomachines, and it certainly puts together everything you've kind of learned from playing the game prior to reaching that very final boss battle with especially with the slicing, which I wasn't completely that great in early on, but I think I've drastically have improved on it before reaching that very final stage. And every now and then I kind of mess up. It's a little, maybe my controller, but sometimes it gets a little finicky. It doesn't quite get to the accurate slice that I wanted, where you have to be very accurate. It's like, oh damn it, I thought I hit that right, and it's just this controller, and I gotta get a newer controller. But it for the most part, enjoying the hell out of it. It doesn't quite feel. I know we were talking about it earlier. It doesn't quite feel too much like a Platinum game, if that makes any sense. It's very like it feels more like a Metal Gear game, but with the beat 'em up action gameplay, and I think it's that way. It suits the purpose of writing. I couldn't see.
It's almost like a cover song.
Almost, yeah, it's almost like that. I think that's a perfect way to put it there. And yeah, I'm digging everything about it. It's satisfying. The gameplay, the music's great, and it does touch on some certain themes there and topics with solving violence with violence, and the whole moral conundrum of that is pretty interesting. It's like, I was pretty taken aback about some of the things they brought up there.
Yeah. They specifically with Raiden himself, which is. Yeah, it's fairly interesting where they take his character, because it is surprisingly it's not traditional in terms of the hero's journey and him dealing with morality, and it's not even solved at the end, where it's like, okay, wow, this whole thing, yeah, it's still going on. It's a fairly interesting concept for them to bring up, and. They said that Kojima was surprised that the game sold so well, and that they might be making a sequel, and if they do, well then they might want to continue on and try to get a little more story out of the franchise. And I wouldn't blame them, just because this is a interesting start of a franchise and an interesting story, and I wouldn't mind going back. And I still like playing it right now, the Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah, I can see myself playing it a lot. When I'm either like listening to podcasts, it's a very kind of meditative and just fun game to play. And then always gotta give kudos to Platinum. I think they've certainly at this point, I think they at least have established themselves as a pretty good developer, and I don't see see how they cannot be being a part of more bigger projects than this. And I'd definitely be very interested in what they have up their sleeves with their future games. Just been a big fan of most of the games they put out: Vanquish, Bayonetta, and Metal Gear Metal Gear Rising, Revengance.
They're like the Nicolas Cage of video game developers. They're always working on something. Even if it's just like a weekend, they're like, oh, we made this 3DS thing over the course of a lunch break. Like, just put it out there.
No,
what was they had like this year? They had Anarchy Reigns. They have Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta 2. I think is coming out this year, and it's they're always working on something.
Yeah, and most of it has been pretty good.
Yeah, so I gotta say I've also been just like replaying some of Bayonetta 2, and I forget just how insane that game is, and just it's crazy, but it's fun crazy, and you know me in terms of the story. Like I didn't really find the story that whole hell a lot of engaging, but I love the character designs. I love the insanity of the universe. I love the mini games they have in there, and just like the Angel Assault, where it's just like an arcade light gun simulator almost, and it just the combos are fun and easy to pull off without being difficult, but there's a lot of depth to mine out of Bayonetta, which I was really surprised by.
Oh yeah, there's certainly a lot of strategy, the way to go about those combos, and just avoiding getting hit, which is pretty. Maybe there is a evade button, but sometimes it can be pretty small, but reasonably well open window to have time to dodge the moves. But it's just a really intense, really intense game, just fast paced, much like a little bit like Metal Gear Rising, which is very fast paced and there's a lot going on, and always parrying. I got that down. So even though parrying doesn't completely work sometimes, I mean it does take a little bit of your health depending on the enemy. But yeah, it's very useful. It's certainly an interesting way to go about it rather than have a simple one button to do that. It's interesting how they approach that, and just all the variety of customizations you can have with the swords. And I've just been using that pole alongside the sword. I couldn't really get a good handle on the one of the other two.
The sky or the scissor weapon.
Yeah, not so much with those. I mean, I tried it out for a little bit, and it's just I had to restart the checkpoint, and with the sticking with that pole, I thought that works a lot well than the other ones. That maybe those are other ones that are a bit more complex to handle, but I just didn't quite grasp them that much. I might give it another shot if I replay it again. But all in all, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's very it's very Metal Gear-esque, but the gameplay it's certainly has a platinum seal of approval there. And if you're into those type of gameplays and can enjoy a little different take on the Metal Gear series by Platinum, it's certainly an interesting endeavor to go into.
Absolutely, and it's Platinum Games is certainly one of those companies who, whenever they're working on something new, I'm interested, just because they always churn out good products, and I'm looking forward to what they do next. I haven't played Anarchy Reigns though, so I've heard different things about that. I've heard some people say like, "Oh, it's great," and then other people say like, it's meh." So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, it seems like a pretty, decent game for the price it came out in. Was it like $30-$40? Which is, for that price, I could forgive it in some ways.
Hell yeah, great pricing structure too. I like the fact that you have these, you have Platinum Games, which is this very big and well-respected company who's putting out a game for $40 instead of the traditional $60. Like, good on them.
So yeah, that's about it for what I've been playing. Nothing else. I haven't gone back to Dead Space 2. I probably will after I hopefully get through this goddamn boss battle, Metal Gear Rising.
Yes, the man with strong arms, absolutely, and it's I've done BioShock Infinite. And then I've been doing like the 5-minute kind of piecemeal missions in Sleeping Dogs, with getting a little bit of story over time and not exactly kind of plowing through it. But it's a really good game, and unlike Grand Theft Auto 4, where it kind of flipped back and forth between being way too satirical and then being way too serious, this is a nice. It's a serious story because like it's all about this undercover cop Wei Shen who goes into the Sun On Yi mob as a kind of an informant for the cops, and it's a very interesting story about identities, and I don't know whether or not, I haven't finished the story yet, but you don't know whether or not this guy is just like you don't know if he's just like faking emotion to get the people to trust him, and then he gets emotional outbursts when the cops try to intervene, or if he's genuinely feeling for the people that he's working with, and then he's getting angrier with the cops as they kind of demand for him to step up the pressure, and it's a very serious story. It's also a more seriously consistent universe where there's they have like radio ads for stores and whatnot, and they're fictional stores, but they don't go like, oh, come on down to go buy our diamonds. They're like 100% blood diamonds imported from Africa because you deserve the best, and violence gives you the best. And they don't do that. There's like, oh, come on down to the clothing store because we got these cool prices for good brands, and it really satisfies. But there's also a lot of comedy in there because there's this one mission where you're trying to infiltrate this. I don't know what it's called. I think it's like some sort of garden where there's a lot of monks, and you're trying to steal flowers for a wedding.
Oh yeah.
And so you go around. Oh yeah, you played the game.
Yes, I have. It's like you were saying. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It struck a nice balance between kind of having a pretty serious story and having some kind of interestingly funny and kind of just silly moments. So it has a really cool. I mean, it's just a very cool location that hasn't really been done all that well or much in the game, and it also. It makes you play differently, especially when you're driving, because you have to drive on the other side of the road rather than the right, because you're used to doing that in games and also in the States. But yeah, you have to drive completely differently. I kept getting into so much car accidents, I kept driving in the wrong lane.
Did anyone shout at you when you were driving down the other side, like "Damn American"?
It might have been, but I didn't understand them. I didn't have the subtitles on.
I really like that game, and it's I don't think it's one of the best open world games ever, but it's so solid on everything that it does, and I like the combat system in there, where it's a nice mixture of the art, as you were saying when we talked about it a while ago, the Arkham City and Arkham Asylum kind of combat system where you got counters, punches, and then instead of kind of the bat, what is it, like confusion move, you just have where you press B and you just like you just hit guys in the eyes with your bat cape, like take that. It's what you do is B is just grab, and so that's a nice variety of different moves.
Oh yeah, it does borrow from the Arkham City gameplay with its melee. I think what a lot of games kind of should do. I mean, I think they really, I mean, Rocksteady really did a great job of handling a kind of melee combat system, which isn't really done all that well in especially open world games. But it certainly set the standard of how you should kind of handle those type of hand-to-hand combat scenarios. And I mean, it's not as in-depth or complex as Arkham's, but it gets the job done, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's crazy how early in the game and I mean, just the length it takes for you to actually get a gun, because most of the time you don't even, like the beginning, you don't even have a gun until like later on, like I don't know, like 2 maybe 3 hours in. Mm-hmm. You don't really notice this because they do a balance. It's pretty well paced.
Absolutely, and they treat guns almost like power ups, because they're not you don't really use them for a while, and then after you're done, you just kind of toss them aside. And the game is sort of like, okay, you're not really there to, for gunfights, and they explain it because like, okay, this is Hong Kong, or what. Also, as a side note, I love this version of Hong Kong because it's not like the actual Hong Kong. It's an amalgamation of what like Hong Kong is and what people think Hong Kong should be, and different interesting areas. Like I love that because they took liberties. And then I'm sorry, what were we talking before?
We talk about how the guns aren't really a big factor.
Oh yeah. They explained it's like, okay, this is Hong Kong, so we have stricter gun laws than in America, and I do like the fact that they kind of stuck to their, no pun intended, they stuck to their guns, and they didn't, and it's not a huge portion of the game where you have like pistols, shotgun, a machine gun, but nothing extravagant. Where it's like, okay, you don't have 15 different assault rifles or a rocket propelled grenade, and then you have a tear gas fire gun. No, it's like, okay, you just have a few stuff, but it works perfectly for what they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And I felt that for the most part, the story it's pretty good, and I think there were definitely some opportunities. I shouldn't say that it should have had this, but there are definitely opportunities where in moments where you were doing either missions for the police or for the triads, like have some sort of kind of if you given the choice to mess up a mission in order for your triad buddies to get away or something like that. It never goes into that in depth. It doesn't really have that, but the story is pretty linear, which is kind of the missions. But it would have been an interesting approach to it. But for the most part, it's just fine that the way it is. It's just a lot of fun. That's the key word for this podcast. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a great action comedy game, and I have to. It's done very, very well, and I have to say there's nothing better than trying to persuade monks to let you into their temple by babbling nonsense that has no meaning.
Kicking their ass because they figured out you're not a monk because you have hair and you're stealing their sacred plants.
Like, girl, I hope you're appreciative of what I just did for you. I had to beat up monks. I'm pretty sure that's bad karma.
Have you gone as far as doing some of the very quick story missions with some of the, you get a couple of like very very quick interactions and encounters with like female characters that just like they don't really go much of anywhere. They just kind of pass you by, like I said, like Emma Stone's in the game. She has like one character that they meet at I think you take her to the dojo there, and that's how if you find statues throughout when you're playing the game, you can go to that dojo and then give you new moves to unlock. And yeah, you never see anything come of the relationship after that. I think you have some sort of love triangle with somebody else, and it just kind of it doesn't really go anywhere. That's kind of the weird little downsides of the game, but yeah.
It is fairly weird how, but actually I prefer that. I would rather have that than the GTA 4. Oh, like, why don't you? Hey, what's going on? Why don't you pick me up over here? By the way, you have to physically drive all the way over there. Like, I don't want to do that. But with like, you have like 9 different possible girlfriends that you could call up, and you have like the introduction date, and then you have like the actual like next date, which are like different activities. Like you'll be taking photos, or you'll be competing in a race, or
karaoke.
I'm sorry,
karaoke,
or karaoke. It's like I never thought karaoke could be really fun in a video game if you didn't actually sing yourself. But this game proved it wrong. It's like, okay, this is a bit of fun. You got me, game. You got me, and it's certainly like all these really cool activities, and then it's just like, okay, we don't want to belabor the point of like, oh, these are girlfriends that you could date, and they just give you kind of cool unlockables at the end. But if somebody, I think I'd be hard pressed to fault anyone for thinking that the game encouraged infidelity as one of its main tropes.
All right, yeah. Looking back on it, actually, I guess you can look at it. It was just kind of these kind of side quests and side stories that gives you a bit of a break from kind of the serious stuff that was going on with your triad buddies. And I'm trying to remember if those dates you went on were they kind of side quests, or were they kind of something you had to do in order to keep advance the story?
I think like the introductory stages were all like a part of the main quests where you would like, oh, this is this main character. By the way, here's his or her lady friend that you're going to be introduced to. It's like, oh, hi, you're like, oh, I'm this character. You're kind of cute. Do you want to go out sometime? It's like, oh, okay, yeah. And then the actual date is kind of when you have those cool activities and you can unlock stuff later. And then, yeah, like the main thing is like, okay, that's the main character stuff, and then the side quests are, the actual dates, which is nice. I like that structure.
Yeah, because I remember I did most of them and I didn't really think much of it. And then I think one of the girls called me because she found out I was dating some other chick or something. And it was just like one date. It never really got any further than that because I don't think it gave you any other option to do it. I was trying to figure out whether that was some sort of something that can happen if you optionally did it, or that was just kind of a part of the main story beats, but it was kind of put to the side there because it wasn't really all about that.
They're all optional side stuff, but I do, but they wrote those, every single one of those dates, very, very well, and just I like the dialogue is well written, and I have to say I really like the fact that they kind of dip in and out of Cantonese and English as well whenever they're talking with each other, just so that you still get the flavor of China, but as well as kind of the English background of the city as well, because it was really controlled by Britain for the longest time until they relinquished. Was it controlled back in '93? I want to say, where it was like they gave it back to China, but Hong Kong is a nice metropolitan area, and they do show it. It's like people say like, oh, all the open world games are either in like San Francisco or in New York, and there's nowhere else because there's no other metropolitan areas. But I gotta say that's not true. I mean, Hong Kong is one of those great areas, and they certainly showed it in this.
Oh right, yeah, you touched upon on the whole language. The whole language aspect of the game, how they don't do the either movies or kind of game tropes of where you're in a foreign place and everybody speaks English, but they never speak in a different language. But they actually go, like you said, back and forth on the different languages, English and then Cantonese, and then they have the subtitles there. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty nice touch. You felt it makes it feel more grounded in reality rather than just having everybody and their mother speaking English, because you're trying to make the game accessible and not having them be speaking a different language.
Right. It's very well done, and I think if this was called True Crimes Hong Kong, then it would be probably the best True Crimes game. And whoa. As it is, Sleeping Dogs is damn good.
If that was the case, I had to challenge you on that one. True Crime LA is a classic for me. With Christopher Walken narrating the game, and just I don't know. I like the LA. I think from when people played that, I think that for the most part they dug it. I don't know. I don't find anything about that game to really dislike about it. I mean, I did play I only played like an hour of it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. New York City, I mean, but LA did a lot of interesting things, and it was a fun. I mean, they were trying to go for the GTA, but it was like not as in depth as GTA. But it was pretty. For the things you could do, it was a lot of fun, and just I like how they had multiple branching story paths, because there are like three main different endings you can go through. Once you've beaten it, you can go through each one, whether it be kind of the bad ending, and also most of each level in that game, if you mess up, they give you the option to just if you can't handle it, or if you can't beat this, or you just want to continue on the game because you can't beat that level, you can skip it, and it gives you like an alternate scene if you messed up. Like if you get beat up by a guy at a bar, and you can't, I mean, for some reason, either you can't beat the guy that like the boss or whatever, or just kind of want to see what happens, you could just optionally skip it and then get an alternate scene. And at some points, if you fail, one of the main ones was like saving your brother from like the butcher shop, and that was a hard one too. It took me so many tries to drive away from the triad guys, because they shot your car up to shit, and it was a slow ass truck. And and optionally, if you failed it, you can go down that story path where you can have it where his brother died, and he starts to go down kind of this crazy rampage against like the main bad guy, which is like the general near the end. It just it did interesting things with multiple story paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And they had Snoop Dogg in it, so it's bonus points.
Yes, they did. And how badass would it be if you were just like walking down the street and Christopher Walken's character from True Crimes, Streets of LA, just like walked like, oh, excuse me there, sir. I didn't see you. What fucking accent am I doing? I have no idea what. Your toe. I see that you have all 10 toes. It's good because there was this one time I got this toe and couldn't figure out who it belonged to. So yeah, I make him sound Jewish. Why?
Oy vey.
Oy.
Yo, it's time to circumcise this child. Yeah.
Oh, Witcher.
I've hid this latke up my ass for more than 10 years.
You're talking to my friend all wrong. You got the wrong tone. Do it again. I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
Oh. Good times, Christopher Walken.
Biz.
Good man. Yeah.
It's not over. Not over. Bears.
It's never over with bears. But yeah, so Sleeping Dogs, heartily recommend it. I'm interested in the DLC that they got, because the first one was like a supernatural cult is trying to take over the city, and then the other one was like Enter the Dragon knockoff. Whereas, yeah, I love that tongue-in-cheek stuff, and Enter the Dragon is just one badass film, and I'd love to see what they do with that.
Oh yeah. I'm familiar with some of the DLC they put out, which was the one that had the kind of very the very mystic and magical elements into that, where you're fighting every character you killed off in the main story game. Doing that again. It's some of the DLC sounds interesting. I haven't checked them out or anything. I don't know how well they are. How well they've add to the whole experience of it, but I think it's a lot better DLC comparatively to games like Saints Row that had the pretty underwhelming DLC. But I don't, from what I've heard about it, it doesn't seem to be quite the case with the Sleeping Dogs one. I mean, not as great as the overall main game, but they're nice little additions and distractions.
Yeah, what they focused on was like, okay, is this fun? If not, we'll axe it. And sometimes it means that there are things that aren't as in depth because you don't. But because if something's not immediately fun, but it builds up to being fun, then that could be great. But there's like, if it's not immediately fun, then we're not going to focus on it. Mm-hmm. And everything from like the driving mechanics. I love the fact that you can jump out of the car and like immediately jump onto someone else's car and kick them out. And everything is, it's well done. I will say that it's definitely an open world game. I heartily recommend.
Oh yeah, that mechanic of jumping in and out of cars, they certainly borrowed that. They probably played that Vin Diesel game, Wheelman. They probably played that.
Them and the 4 other people who bought that game.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Oh yeah. That was an interesting game. Did Dwayne Johnson voice the Spy Hunter video game?
I'm trying to remember. I think I remember a while back he was attached to be in a Spy Hunter movie. That's all I remember. The whole correlation between those two things. I don't know if he voiced anything for a Spy Hunter game, but yeah, it's been certainly those. It was certainly an old rumor Probably they already asked that they were going to do some sort of Spy Hunter movie with him, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It might happen since he's been increased the popularity of as of late. But I'm pretty much doubt that it's gonna come to fruition anytime soon. Just how they always say they're working on certain obscure video game movies.
They're talking about doing a Missile Command movie a while back. It's like okay, that seems a little bit odd.
Well, I'm waiting for the Tetris one, man. It's gonna be epic.
Two brothers separated by blocks. Hey, we need an L shape down here, man. We can't do it alone. Dramatic music. Just thinking of how that would how that come together. Yeah, well, they're making an Angry Birds TV show, movie. I don't know, that they're doing something with Angry Birds, and it's like, whatever, it's Angry Birds. So if they can get something done, then why not anything else?
Sure, why not? Who are we to standing up there and object to this farce?
Yeah. So, would you like to move on to some questiones for the week?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's comes down to the good point of the podcast. I don't know if you wanted to bring up, or we're still going to keep this hush hush on the. I know we did the contest 2 weeks ago.
With that, I would say that everybody, please, for those of you who are still listening, please send in please send in the answers, and then we will let you all know. I don't want to say whether or not the slots are filled yet. So, and we have, is it 2 categories or is it just the 1 category? For both sets of prizes.
Well, we only have one that's so far. It was the one that you provided me that I put in the show notes for the last one. Just that one character there. I mean, we're hoping to. After that gets done, to just do another one after that for my side of the prizes there.
Okay.
Hopefully, so yeah, we could send in some submissions to you through Spell, or emailing us on bloodythumbspodcast@gmail.com. That's certainly a way to submit your submissions through that. Mm-hmm. If you don't happen to have an account to Spell.com and you're listening to us through other means like iTunes or wherever else I put these up, please let us know, because I like to know myself. Anyways,
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Get to the questions there.
Yes. Okay. We have Neon Chasma. Rock the Chasmar. Sorry. What do you think? What do you think of Saints Row 4? Can it be an improvement over the 3rd Saints Row game? Well, Splinter, I think we're in agreement that we really enjoy the Saints Row series. And
that's correct.
It's ludicrous, over the top fun that Grand Theft Auto kind of abandoned for this generation. And I have to say, everybody was. I'm in that boat too, where Saints Row the 3rd could have been great, but it felt like there's like little touches that they could have done that would have made it awesome. But as it stands, it's still just a very good game. And I had a lot of fun with the universe. I love the activities. I really like the characters, and they're surprising. It's a surprisingly witty dialogue where it's like, okay, you're set in this universe full of over-the-top zaniness. You don't need to have dialogue this good, and they still do. And Saints Row 4, I like the fact that they're saying, okay, this is going to be the last one of this generation, and so we're going to go out with a bang. And what you guys are going to have is like, okay, you'll have superhero powers. You'll be able to be the president. It's like everything that you could ever want is going to be in this game, tying up the epic Saints Row saga, and it's like I really am looking forward to this, and I certainly hope that it's a great game. I think it could be an improvement over the 3rd Saints Row game, just for, once again, little touches like. Being able to replay cutscenes with your customizable character, because it's interesting to see okay, so you go through the game once as your character who looks like you in a business suit or in looking like a badass with huge tattoos and a gat strapped to one arm. But then it'll be just funny to go replay the cutscene. You as a naked 300-pound woman who's painted purple. And everyone's still straight faced, like, oh, how you doing, boss? Like, no one notices this is being weird. Like, I want to see to redo that, and as well as replaying missions, because that was also something that was sorely missing, where you couldn't go back and redo the missions, where it had a choice system where, like, okay, you can either destroy this building that the enemy has and they can't ever use it again, or we can retake the building over and then use it for profits. And there's benefits to both. And then you couldn't go back just because of how the game was structured and do it again just because of how it was structured. Mm-hmm. And I certainly hope that maybe the next game rectifies that problem. But as long as they kind of give me the experience that we've already gotten from the other games, but still manage to infuse those, once again, the little touches that really make it great, then I'll be a happy man.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with most of what you had to say about that. I did enjoy Saints Row 3. There were some parts I didn't quite enjoy this. Sometimes there were moments where they were just completely overwhelming with enemies and such things, and just the way how your characters react to some of the attacks, which is there are funny at times, just like the ragdoll, but just sometimes we'll get a little noise. All right, get up. It's taking like 5 seconds to get up because it's just like ragdolling over the place. But little touches could be implemented here and there, and some newer ideas. I mean, I one of my favorite scenes from the third was when you're riding away on those horse carriages by like the dominatrixes, and you just shoot and you're just shooting them, the people that are chasing you doing the same, and just having it blow up for no reason.
I love that scene. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite ones there, and just there's other moments in that one. It just I like to see something more in the lines of kind of some of the absurd and nonsensical things like that. I like to see more in the fourth installment there, and I think a bit more customization would be nice. I mean, I think there was nice customizations there, but not as kind of really well versed or as complex as the Saints Row 2 was, and we'll see what they will do with the fourth one. I tried to, I think I mentioned it, I tried to create Agent 47 for the Saints Row, but it just couldn't get the barcode on the back of his head because it was only available to put it on his front head, so it was like I had to play the game without a barcode. It just didn't feel quite right to me. That was when I was in the mood for playing a Hitman game, and that was quite before Absolution had come out, so that was just as close as I was going to get to having 47 doing crazy things there with dildo bats, which doesn't seem very far off from Hitman game. He probably would use that as a weapon in some way, shape, or form.
He's using bongs, and he probably killed a guy like stuffing a chicken down somebody's throat. Like, I would be surprised if he decided like, I'm using this giant dildo bat and I'm beating you to death with it. Absolutely.
So yeah, there's definitely improvements with almost kind of any game that has its predecessor behind it, and it's always nice fine tuning that they could do to make the experience much more grand.
Mm-hmm. They do, and I'm always a big fan. I also really like the presentation style of the third game, because they have that very hyper realistic, cartoony look about it, where it's like, okay, these characters have their own kind of art style to them, and they're not just sort of, okay, we're trying to make the character models as best we can. It's like, oh, we're going to try to make the best, cool presentation style that we can.
Oh yeah, a little bit close to cell shading, but not too much. But yeah, it's certainly along those lines. There, it's teetering on that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, thanks for the question, Neon Chasma. I'm gonna move on here to this final one for this episode from Steve Rome.
Yeah, Steve Rome.
And this question is, with the next generation of consoles coming this year or the next, do you guys think that almost all the game developers didn't use the full capacity of the PS3?
Yeah. I think it's fairly obvious that the PS3, the technology in the PS3 was very good for the time, and still amazing now. Where games like Heavenly Sword and Metal Gear Solid 4, they look great and they run spectacularly, but the company started realizing, okay, we're going to have to go multi-console to kind of make back our costs and to really get our product out there, and because of that, they couldn't really utilize I'm sorry, what was the name of it? The cell processing unit that they had inside.
This comes from a good opportunity to Google this while you're...
Yes. Unfortunately, my internet connection is slow as molasses because I got a lot of tabs open right now, and but I don't think that from a gameplay perspective they really used it that incredibly, because they didn't really have too many exclusives that I really were was interested in, that seemed to really utilize the best graphics capability that they could. I mean, God of War, God of War 3, and not God of Judgment, Revelations. They always have this. God of War Judgment, right?
God of War, the new one?
Yes, the new one.
The new one. That is a good question there. Just a moment. Will I Google this? It might have been just it, or God damn it! I know it's on the tip of my tongue right here.
God of War. God of War. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with these blades here. Anyway, those developers used the game to the best extent possible.
Ascension.
Right, Ascension, where it's they were able to kind of pull back the camera. You can see these magnificent, huge vistas, all this great detail, but then you didn't really have that being used too often. And it's a damn shame that they didn't really utilize the graphics engine for a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just from kind of what I've seen, just mainly the kind of issues it had. It was just it definitely was a console that was kind of hard to develop for, and that was certainly why some of the people preferred playing games like Fallout, or some games from Bethesda on the 360. Just like some games just like ran a whole of a lot better on the 360 than the PS3. I mean, that's especially true from what I've heard of Bayonetta on the PS3.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only one where like there were a lot of sources where they were having separate reviews. Like PC and consoles, those might be different. Like the PC may, like, for one review, it could be the graphics are different for the PC because they look better, or they might control better on the console. But this is the only one where I've seen where there's like a PS3 and a 360 exclusive reviews for for both editions.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's definitely things they could have used the PS3 for is full of potential, but graphically we've gotten a good amount of things out of it with games like you mentioned, Metal Gear Solid 4 and the Uncharted games.
Oh yeah, the Uncharted games, yeah, absolutely. I forgot. Lest we forget.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll find out soon later this month. So we'll see how they implement the full power of the PS3 for Deadly Premonition Director's Cut.
It's certainly. I don't know how they're going to do it, because the original game it basically looked better than real life, and I don't know how they can really do any better. It's like they're going to have to pull every trick out of their hat just to make it look maybe even a 20th better than what it looked originally. But it's hard to do that,
That sounds just about right. So thank you for the question there, Steve Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Rome.
Steve Rome.
And that wraps up the questions portion of our podcast. And just in about a few moments here, the final podcast as a whole. So this has been episode 131 of Bloody Thumbs podcast. We're back. I mean, even though we've talked about how it felt like a long time. It's only been like probably a week or two and a half. But just in case, we're still here. So I'm sure you've been anxiously waiting for another episode of us here. But hopefully that you were the recent the co-podcast we did with the BGB guys, held the people over until this very moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and good to be back. And thank you everyone for listening to us. And we always appreciate your questions and your comments and your concerns and just your everything that you send our way. And we're appreciative. And please don't forget to submit your answers into our contests that we have. The first one being the obscure character contest. So send that away, and then Splinter will showcase the next one as well. And then we'll have that. And just let everybody know you can find us on thebgb.com, not to be confused with bgb.com, who apparently are very sore about the fact that we're more popular than they are. And we're also on Spill's group page, and we're on iTunes. We have our own website on Blogspot, was it?
Yeah, it's WordPress. I mean, nothing too fancy there. I mean, I haven't gone as far as purchasing a domain for us, but mainly I post the audio. Pretty much everything that I post on Spill or the BGB, it goes on there, and then after a few moments, the audio goes onto the iTunes page. It's all that stuff is linked through the iTunes on the blog, on the WordPress site, actually, BladeThumbsPodcast.wordpress.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
All the goodness there. And on Twitter, we're at the Twitter.
Yes. I was hoping to initiate a debate with Aaron Burnett from CNN, just because of the just obnoxious video, the interview she had with somebody talking about video game violence, where she's like, "Well, don't video games cause people to kill other people?" And he's like, "Well, they could cause aggression, but I don't see how they could really cause any violence." Well, but you're wrong. Like this, they do cause violence. And so I just tweeted a snarky comment back at her, and I said, it's like, "Oh, I just played Mario, therefore I will kill every turtle I see in existence." Hashtag Aaron Burnett logic. So, I don't update too frequently. I am getting better at it, though, so admittingly. Splinter is also on Twitter. He is Splinter47. I am ch_Gorog.
Yeah, that's correct. I've been meaning to be a little bit more active on the Twitters. It's just been pretty hectic kind of couple of weeks for me, and hopefully I'll just kind of get on there and I'll tweet whatever, just for the sake of having some activity there. I just recently been getting in the mood of doing that again. I like just tweeting my thoughts, even though they're pretty incoherent and just spontaneous. But hey, that's what it's made for.
Hey, it's all good, buddy. As long as you have a good time doing it, and just you let your heart soar and you're truthful, and it'll all be good.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's all. That's it for the plugs there, and just wanted to, I guess, quickly mention I recently purchased a newer microphone from Amazon, the Blue Snowball microphone, which I hear is pretty top-notch microphone. I'm looking just to have that here on the side for doing it on for future podcasts, rather than having this headset, which sometimes could get a little uncomfortable. Not when especially because I wear glasses, so it's not very comfortable sometimes with that on. But hopefully, just having the good old earbuds and just having it plugged into just the audio, and having the microphone on my side here separately would be maybe a drastic drastic, nice addition and improvement for the audio wise, and hopefully for future Let's Plays, because I haven't done any kind of Let's Plays in a while. So
yeah.
mainly because of the just redundancy of editing the audio, because my microphone when I record locally doesn't sound quite up to par with YouTube standards, and even for just the regular listening standards, unless it involves a lot of editing. But it's hopefully we'll see what happens. I'll probably do a quick test video on the microphone tomorrow when I get it, which will be arriving tomorrow. Yes, that's correct. And I guess the final words here, and just probably just an off-topic tangent here. WrestleMania weekend's going on. I probably will watch it through means. I mean, through maybe a good old friend of mine named the Internet, and I'll watch it through that and see
John
what happens.
Internet. Do you know John Internet?
Exactly, I know John Internet. We're going to be watching WrestleMania together and seeing how it turns out. I've said, I've talked about it before with Anthony from the BGB, because we talk wrestling at times, and we've just been talking about how we're gonna a bit underwhelmed of how storylines have been built up. Some of these matches, the matches, I mean, some of them have potential. They probably will be good matches. It's just we're not too ecstatic or emotionally invested into them. Just how the way they were put together and the way they've built them up, which is not really much, because there are a couple of just late additions they added just last week. So we'll see.
I gotta tell you, how excited would you be if they were just starting the match and like all of a sudden Dwayne Johnson and Hulk Hogan came out and just like, well, brother, we're gonna take him down today. Like, we're gonna do a tag team match and it's gonna be awesome, brother. How would that be?
It would be awesome, but in reality, I don't think Hulk Hogan could even do a leg drop anymore.
He does. It's what he does when he gets out of bed in the morning.
Oh, okay, that's what he called falling out of bed. A leg drop. Not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's going to be on this Saturday.
It's this Sunday. Yes, pay-per-view. Pay-per-view. That sounds archaic to me. Pay-per-view.
Yeah. You might as well say, why don't you go down to your nearest Blockbuster store, sonny, and then go pick up WrestleMania 6. Like, this sounds like an old timer thing.
It does, yeah. But we'll see how the show goes. I probably will tweet about it a bit as the show goes on, and seeing how it fares. I'm actually looking forward to some matches. Just not too much the storyline attached to them, but we'll see. I mean, the Dwayne Johnson's wrestling, so if you're interested in that, he's going to be facing John Cena again for the second time. I mean, they labeled it the first time as a once in a lifetime, but obviously with the WWE, it's not the case. This is second in a lifetime, man. So you got another chance to watch this.
You won't have another chance to watch this unless you do. Then you'll see it again. But now it's the only time you'll see it.
Yes. Like I'm interesting how some of the spots will go for some matches here. I gotta introduce you as Fandango, man. He's certainly a character there. His whole gimmick is how for the past few weeks he hasn't wrestled a match since he's made his kind of appearance. He hasn't wrestled the match, and because people can't get his name right. So yeah, that's certainly an endeavor into the videos on YouTube to look into. But we'll see if he actually does wrestle or not on WrestleMania, which I think he's got to have to at this point. He's been flaking for the last month and a half. So we'll see. We will see.
Fandango, huh? I keep buying tickets from the guy. He seems to be well connected.
That's right. That's one of the jokes that's being tossed around there.
Glad to know that I, as the slow horse, have finally crossed the finish line.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my final words here on my end. I don't know if you want to bring up anything just randomly. That'd be cool. Other than that, it's just WrestleMania weekend, and what is it? Oh shit! I forgot. Mad Men's coming back this weekend, and Game of Thrones is on, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff this weekend. To fill the void of television, which I don't partake in too much, other than bits of wrestling and the bits of Walking Dead, which I kind of I lose interest in it every once in a while. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's I'm spoiled on Walking Dead just because after playing the game, I can't go back to the TV series because it's like, okay, you guys aren't dedicated enough to go as dark as the video games do, yet you're not. You guys don't have as good enough writers to figure it out either. So it's like whenever I go back to Walking Dead, it's like, oh, it's fine, but it's no Telltale version of the game.
Yeah, exactly how I feel. But and people are just kind of baffled on when I say that. I mean, I watch it here and there, but not too huge of a fan of it. And these are just kind of just casual Walking Dead fans, but to each his own. I mean, it's good that there's a show like that on TV. But I never would have thought years ago that they would have a zombie TV show. It's just something that hasn't really been done or either done well from my own recollection before this, when the first season at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. And, any final words, good sir?
No, just interesting to see where we are right now, and can't wait for the future.
Alrighty, so for everybody at home, thanks for listening. I'm Splinter47 signing off for this 131 episode of Blaython's podcast.
And I am CH Gorog. I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Peace.
Bye-bye.